picture the year 1981. It's the dawn of the digital era, synthesizers are getting huge, and this company, Roland, releases a new product.
Right.
It's this small silver plastic box, maybe the size of a book. And the claim is huge. It's designed to replace a human musician, specifically a bass player.
Which is a pretty bold claim for something that runs on C batteries.
Exactly. But there's this massive problem. The little silver box sounds absolutely nothing like a bass guitar.
Not even close.
It doesn't sound like wood or strings. It sounds thin. It sounds metallic. Honestly, it sounds like a mosquito trapped in a tin can.
It was. I mean, by any normal standard, an abject failure, a commercial disaster.
Yeah.
Musicians just laughed at it.
Right. It was considered electronic junk. So bad that Roland just discontinued it after only 3 years. You literally couldn't give these things away.
But that's where the story gets really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because this specific piece of garbage didn't just end up in a landfill. It accidentally created an entire cultural revolution.
It's the ultimate paradox. We are talking, of course, about the Roland TB-303 bassline. And the mission for this deep dive is to explore how this failed product became the absolute cornerstone of acid house.
And we're going to look at this from a few angles. We've got technical schematics, we have oral histories from Chicago, and even some sociology on the whole 80s underground scene.
So we're really going to unpack the beautiful mistake behind it all, the actual moment someone twisted a knob the wrong way.
And how a group of teenagers in Chicago turned a $50 doorstop into a sound that went completely global.
What I love about this is that it's not just a story about a synth. It's about economics, it's about accessibility, and this idea of creative misuse.
Right. It's what happens when you stop asking what a machine should do.
And start asking what it can do.
Exactly. It kind of challenges our whole idea of innovation. You know, we think it comes from these high-end labs, but here, innovation came from a pawn shop.
So let's go back to the scene of the crime, 1981. What was the original plan here? What was the designer, Tadao Kikumoto, actually trying to do?
The intent was almost utilitarian. It was for solo musicians. Think of a guitarist practicing alone in their bedroom.
Okay.
They didn't have computers to make backing tracks back then. So the idea was you can program a bass line into this little box, and it would just play along while you practiced your solos.
So it was supposed to be a silent partner, a digital stand-in, so you didn't have to hire a real bassist for rehearsals?
That's it. And that's why the failure was so spectacular, because a real bass guitar, like a Fender Precision, it has warmth, it has this thump.
A physical presence.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 303 just sounded like a robot trying to hum. But, you know, the sound wasn't even the only problem. The interface for using it was a complete nightmare.
Really? I mean, it only has a few knobs on it.
The knobs are for shaping the sound, yeah. But the programming, actually telling it what notes to play, was excruciating.
How so?
Imagine trying to write a song on an old calculator. You had to input the pitch, then the timing, then whether a note was accented, all separately, step by tedious step. It was not intuitive at all.
So to program a simple walking bass line, you basically needed an engineering degree.
And even if you got it right, the result just sounded cheesy. So naturally, musicians hated it. Roland only sold about 10,000 units. By 1984, they just pulled the plug.
A total flop. And that's usually where the story ends. But this failure created a very specific economic opportunity.
This is the pivot point. Because it was a flop, these units flooded the secondhand market. Pawn shops, mostly.
Gathering dust next to old VCRs.
Exactly. And by the mid-'80s, the price had just plummeted. You could get a TD-303 for maybe $50, $100. Tops.
And that price point is everything, isn't it? $50 moves a piece of tech out of the professional studios and into a whole different world.
That's the key. It fell into the hands of young, working-class kids in Chicago, aspiring producers who could never afford the big, fancy synths that, Prince was using.
They weren't buying it because it was cool or vintage.
No, that nostalgia didn't exist yet. They bought it because it was cheap. It was what they could afford.
Which brings us to the aha moment. The night acid was born. We have to talk about the group Phuture.
Right. This is the origin story. We're in Chicago, 1985. You have three young guys, DJ Pierre, Earl Spanky Smith Jr., and Herb Jackson.
Just teenagers, basically.
Teenagers. And they got their hands on one of these cheap 303s. And the key thing is, they didn't really know how to program it correctly according to the manual. They weren't trying to make it sound like a bass player.
They were just messing around.
Exactly. They had a beat running from a drum machine. The 303 was playing some simple pattern, and while it was looping, DJ Pierre just started twisting the knobs in real time.
And this is where the magic happens, because there's that row of small knobs at the top of the machine.
Yep, and two of them are everything, resonance and cutoff frequency.
Let's pause here, because resonance and cutoff are terms people hear a lot, but what are they actually doing to the sound? Can we break that down simply?
Okay, for sure. Think of the raw sound from the machine as like a block of clay. It's a very buzzy, sharp sound wave.
Yeah.
The cutoff frequency is your main sculpting tool. It's a filter that cuts off the high frequencies.
So it makes it sound more muffled.
Right. Imagine you're listening to music and you put a thick pillow over the speaker. The sound gets dull, right? It's a low cutoff.
Yeah.
As you lift the pillow, the bright, sharp sounds come back.
So turning the cutoff knob up is like lifting the pillow. It lets the brightness through.
Exactly. Open versus closed.
Okay, so that's cutoff. What about resonance?
Resonance is the weird spice. Technically, it boosts the frequencies right at that cutoff point. But in the 303, the resonance circuit was, let's just say, over-enthusiastic. It had this quirk.
A flaw.
A flaw. When you crank the resonance knob all the way up, the filter starts to self-oscillate.
Self-oscillate. It sounds like the machine is taking over.
It kind of is. The filter itself starts creating its own tone, this high-pitched whistle or scream that rides on top of the bass note.
And that's the squelch.
That's the squelch. When you then move the cutoff knob while the resonance is cranked, you're sweeping that whistle up and down. It's what gives it that liquid vocal sound, the wow, 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 or EOL.
So Phuture is in this room twisting these two knobs, and the machine just starts screaming at them.
Yes. It starts making this gurgling, alien, psychedelic sound, a sound that had never really existed before. DJ Pierre said it felt like the machine was speaking in a new language. They just looked at each other, totally shocked.
And there are two other little features that add to this, right? The accent and the slide.
Oh, crucial. The accent just makes certain notes louder and punchier, but the slide is the secret sauce. Because it's an analog circuit, the slide makes the pitch glide between notes instead of just stepping cleanly.
Like a trombone instead of a piano.
Perfect analogy. And when you combine that slide with the screaming filter, you get this elastic, stretching, organic sound.
It's a strange tension then. The timing is rigid, locked to a grid, but the sound itself is fluid and messy.
That's the cyborg aesthetic. The 303 is imperfect. Because it's analog, two of them playing the same pattern will never sound exactly the same. The machine forces you to work with its quirks, to embrace the chaos.
So Phuture records this experiment. They make a track.
They record what would become acid tracks. It wasn't officially released until 1987, but the recording from that night was just pure 303. It was 12 minutes long.
12 minutes.
12 minutes. Minimal drums, no vocals, no real melody, just this hypnotic, mutating bass line.
12 minutes of a squelching bass line is not something you'd hear on the radio in 1985.
Not a chance. You play that in a dark, sweaty warehouse at 3 in the morning. And that brings us to the godfather of the scene, Ron Hardy.
Right, and we should distinguish him from Frankie Knuckles, who people might know better.
Great point. Frankie Knuckles at the Warehouse was all about soulful, uplifting, warm music, very connected to disco. Ron Hardy at the Music Box was the complete opposite. He was aggressive, experimental, almost punk.
He liked weird sounds.
He loved weird sounds. So Phuture takes this cape, this bizarre 12-minute noise experiment, to Ron Hardy.
And what happens?
The legend is, Hardy played it 4 times that night. The first time, the dance floor completely cleared. People were like, what is this noise?
They weren't ready for it.
Not at all. But Hardy believed in it. So he played it again and again. By the 4th time, at maximum volume, the crowd was in a total frenzy.
He broke them down.
He did. The sound was so intense and strange that people kept asking what it was. And the name acid actually came from that moment.
How so?
There was a rumor that someone had put LSD in the water at the club or something because the music sounded so hallucinogenic. So DJ Pierre jokingly said the track was acid and the name just stuck. It sounded like sonic LSD.
So Phuture breaks the seal. They unleash this sound. What happens next in Chicago?
It just explodes. Suddenly everyone wanted a 303. The price shot up and a whole new aesthetic was born. It was all about less is more.
All you needed was a drum machine and a 303.
That was it. A Roland TR-808 or 909 for the beat, and a 303 for the acid line. And the music got darker, more raw.
You get tracks like Sleazy D's I've Lost Control.
Yes, from 86.
Yeah.
The title says everything. The track sounds like the machine is literally fighting back, trying to escape. It's just chaotic.
I was listening to Bam Bam's Where's Your Child, from '88. That track is genuinely terrifying. It sounds like a horror movie.
It is. It's so raw, it's almost violent. And that's an important point. This wasn't polished pop music. This was music that reflected the harsh reality of the world it came from.
Let's talk about that context. This is Chicago in the mid-'80s.
Exactly. This was a movement driven by Black and Latino, often LGBTQ plus bod working class kids. This was DIY music born from poverty and limitation, It came from a city dealing with serious violence and segregation.
So it wasn't just mindless party music.
No, it was raw and distorted. It felt like it was acknowledging the darkness of the city, not just trying to escape it.
It seems like a total rejection of the mainstream '80s vibe. The stuff on MTV was all about excess, big hair, big studios, everything polished.
Precisely. Acid House was a sonic middle finger to all of that. It stripped everything away. No real melody, no harmony, just rhythm and timbre. It was pure rebellion.
This brings up the idea of Black futurism. How does this fit in?
It's central to it. You have these young Black producers taking failed Japanese technology and using it to invent the future. They were making sci-fi soundscapes. It defied the expectation that Black music had to be soul or R&B. They were making the soundtrack for the digital age with an alien machine.
So this intense local scene in Chicago, it obviously didn't stay local for long.
No, it went global. The sound traveled across the Atlantic to the UK, and it basically fueled the whole Second Summer of Love in '88 and '89.
The birth of the modern rave scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. The smiley face logo, the huge field parties, that was all soundtracked by the TB-303. It went on to influence techno, trance, jungle. I mean, the DNA of almost all modern electronic dance music can be traced back to Phuture twisting those knobs.
It's incredible. A product failure in Japan becomes a cultural revolution in Chicago, which then sparks a massive youth movement in Europe.
And the core lesson here really is the power of the accident, the power of the flaw. If the 303 had been a perfect machine, if it had sounded exactly like a real bass guitar,
nobody would remember it today.
It would be a footnote in a Roland catalog. It was its failure that made it a legend.
It really makes you rethink how we look at junk, doesn't it?
It does. The tools that society discards often hold the most creative potential because they're cheap and there are no rules for how to use them properly. You don't feel bad about abusing them.
You treat it like a playground.
Exactly. Wrong is just another path to new.
So before we wrap up, let's just quickly recap the journey. We start with the Roland TB-303, a failed bass machine.
It ends up in pawn shops for $50. Phuture finds one, twists the resonance and cut off knobs, and discovers the squelch.
They record acid tracks, Ron Hardy breaks it at the music box, and the sound just takes over the world.
From a $50 paperweight to the defining sound of a generation.
It's a wild ride. And I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to chew on. We live in a world of digital perfection now. We have software that can fix our pitch, quantize our rhythm, and undo any mistake with Ctrl plus Z.
Yeah, the happy accident is becoming a bit of an endangered species.
Right. If Phuture had been using modern software, they might have just hit undo when the machine started screaming. They might have thought, oops, that's distortion, let me fix that.
They would have cleaned it up.
Yeah.
And they would have erased history in the process.
So the question I want to leave you with is this. In our endless pursuit of perfection, are we losing the potential for these beautiful accidents? And maybe more importantly, what failed piece of technology is sitting in a thrift store right now, just waiting for someone to misuse it and start the next revolution?
That's the question. Don't look for the perfect tool. Look for the interesting failure. Go find your 303.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious.